Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. So my coverage of Yellowjackets continues. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit subscribe as well as the bell button next to it so that way you don't miss any of these videos. I got some interviews with the cast coming up, so you don't want to miss that as well. Today we are going to be talking about Yellowjackets Season 2, Episode 2, Edible Complex. So again, this is going to be filled with spoilers. If you guys have not seen the episode, make sure you watch that before you watch this breakdown. Otherwise, if you don't care about that, feel free to continue watching, but I just want to give you that heads up before we start talking about the episode in full detail. So the episode opens up once again in the meat shack where we have Shauna and Jackie. They're having a conversation together, or we should say that Shauna's having a conversation with Jackie's corpse. But they're talking. Jackie mentions that they're running out of food fast and also asks Shauna what did she end up doing with her ear. Jackie then ends up telling Shauna that she should do her hair and makeup to help try and cover the missing ear that she has right now. And so Shauna ends up doing that, and then we see Coach. He's like, hey, maybe someone from the group should try and go and figure out what's going on with Shauna, just checking in with her. But Lottie says to leave her alone because she's still in the grieving process. There's talks amongst the group that maybe they'll just eat Shauna's food if she doesn't want to come in back to the cabin because they're all starving and they just want to eat. They don't want to have to wait for her. But Lottie and Ty shut that shit down real quick. Ty then asks who reeks, and I love Misty in this whole scene. She's hilarious because she looks at herself and kind of gives herself a sniff and looking around the room. Then Ty realizes that someone shit in the bucket that they're using, and so Misty asks, is it a girl poo or is it a guy poo? And everyone's reactions are like, what? We then go back to the shack where Shauna and Jackie are still talking, and Jackie's continuing to taunt Shauna, saying that the only reason that she had sex with Jeff is because she wanted to be more like her. And then she tells Shauna that she's getting really hungry, and you see Jackie takes the knife and starts cutting into her arm to cut off a piece of flesh. But then you realize that it's actually Shauna the one that has the knife, and you can tell that at this point Shauna's really starting to lose it. After we get the introduction to the show, we go to present day where we have Callie and her boyfriend in her bedroom. And I just want to point out, I know in the last video I accidentally called Callie Kelly instead for some reason. I'm an idiot. I appreciate the person though that was in the comments that was cool about it and didn't say, obviously you didn't watch the show. Thank you so much for being cool about that. So it is Callie, they are in the bedroom, and she ends up deciding to break up with her boyfriend at that point. We then flash back to the 90s where we see Van wakes up in the middle of the night and realizes that Ty is gone. So she gets up to go look for her, goes outside of the cabin, sees there's footprints in the snow, and finally we see Ty walking along and see that she actually sees the man with no eyes. So she seems to be following him. She's moving along, and just in the nick of time, Van ends up saving Ty because she was about to actually go right over the edge. So she saves her, and we quickly see on one of the trees right there, there's the symbol carved into the trees again. So I'm really curious as what is up with the man with no eyes? What is going on with him, and why did Ty end up seeing him, and why was he luring her out to her death? What is just going on with that whole situation? There's definitely a lot to unpack with Ty and her situation, so I'm hoping as the season goes on, we're going to start learning more about what's going on with that character in particular. After this close call, Van's then talking to Ty and just asking what she remembers from the events of tonight, and she doesn't really remember, and Van mentions that maybe they should talk to Lottie, and you can just tell that Ty is not about that for either herself or for Van. So you definitely can still get that sense that there's the division in the group of these girls, or just the Yellowjackets crew overall, that who believes Lottie and who doesn't, where you have Ty and Nat. We then have a really nice transition from the 90s into the present day where you see Ty, and she is just drinking an ungodly amounts of caffeine to try and stay awake. And again, for me being the horror fan that I am, this just instantly made me think of the Nightmare on Elm Street series where you have the kids, they didn't want to go to sleep because they were worried about running into Freddy Krueger. So that's what this whole sequence just instantly reminded me of. And I don't know if they were going for that, but I definitely appreciated that little nod there. But we do get this one scene at the very end of her drinking all the caffeine, running on her bike and things like that. She is sitting in front of her mirror and she's looking one way, but then you see her reflection turns and looks directly at herself who's looking at her through the mirror. And I don't think I caught it initially, but I went back and watched that and just sitting there kind of going, what the fuck is that? So I am really curious what is just going on with the whole situation with Tai. Like, is she possessed? What is going on there? Is she part of some cult? Who knows? I want to hear what your guys' thoughts and theories are on the situation with Tai. Definitely let me know down below in the comments on that. After that, we then come back to the past where we see that Nat is looking out the window and sees Lottie talking to Travis again before they're getting ready to make their rounds, go looking for Javi and looking for food once more. Nat and Travis end up having a conversation about how he's trying to be more receptive and open to things, and Nat gets frustrated because she feels like while they're out looking for food and trying to find Javi, Lottie's just trying to do her spiritual thing, and that just really frustrates her. But then Travis ends up saying that everyone is going to have a role in this and that they're going to need a lot more than food to make it through this situation, and that's before the two of them end up splitting off in different directions. And watching the episode, them going in different directions, I'm like, what are you doing? You never split up in these kind of situations. So that was my first reaction with that, but they end up going off in different directions and agree to meet up at a certain point in the day. We then go to the present, and Nat and Lottie are having a conversation where Lottie tells Nat that her group isn't a cult and they're just trying to make people be the best versions of themselves. Nat ends up mentioning them kidnapping her, and Lottie says that that wasn't the plan initially, and the fact that they were burying that guy at the end of last episode, that was actually some form of a therapeutic treatment. And I'm part of a couple of the Yellowjackets fan pages on Facebook, and I can't remember the person's name, so I apologize for that. But someone on one of the pages had actually mentioned that in one of the discussion posts that was some form of a therapeutic treatment or a ritual. I had no idea that was the case, so I thought that was interesting to read. So again, I can't remember their name, but thank you for posting that. I thought that was really cool. Lottie also explains to Nat that after what happened to Travis when he died, that she was worried that Nat would end up doing something stupid, and so that's why she sent her people to go keep an eye on her. So that it makes sense with the events of end of season 1 now. Back in the present day, we have Callie. She's sitting in her room looking at Adam's license when her mom knocks on the door and comes in, is trying to make small talk with her daughter, just saying that she wants to spend time with her, but Callie is still giving her the cold shoulder at this point, and understandable because she does have her suspicions of what her mom has done, but you can tell that her mom, even though she probably knows that her daughter knows something, she really, I think, does want to have a connection with her daughter and feels like they don't really have that at this moment. We then see Misty. She goes back on the Citizens Detective message board and trying to see if anyone has responded to her post about how to possibly hack the camera. And she sees that the person, Elijah Wood's character, has responded to her and says, I might have an idea if you stop shitting on my Adam theories, but Misty isn't having any of that. I just love how flustered and annoyed she gets with this character. Back in the 90s, we have Tai. She's finishing up chopping up the wood that she's working on. She decides to go into the meat shack where Shauna and Jackie are located, and when she goes in there, she sees that Jackie's body is propped up against the wall. You can see the makeup done, her hair done and everything. She immediately leaves and goes to confront Shauna and tell the rest of the group of what's been going on, that she's been doing her hair, doing her makeup. It looks like something straight out of a horror movie, this girl playing with this dead body, even though it's her best friend. And Lottie comes to her defense, but you can just tell everyone else is kind of sitting there like, what the fuck is going on? Tai then makes the decision that they have to get rid of Jackie's body and that they are going to end up cremating her. In the present day, we have Shauna and Callie. They're in the kitchen when the doorbell rings. Kevin shows up to the door, comes in and starts talking to Shauna, asks her if she knew Adam. She mentions that she ended up getting into a car accident with him, so the two exchanged information, and Kevin ends up asking her if they still have contact. She says no, but he's like, well, we actually have proof that there is multiple exchanges between the two of you, and you can tell that Sean is really starting to get nervous with this conversation the longer that it's going on, the more that he's pressing, and Callie actually ends up saving her mother by coming in and saying like, hey, we're going to be late, can we get ready to go? So Kevin ends up saying that they'll be in touch. After he leaves, Callie, though, asks her mom, why did she lie to the police? And Shauna eventually ends up saying that she lied in order to protect her father. We then go to Tai at her house where we see that Sammy shows up to the house, and She asks him, how did you get here? Tells her that he ended up walking from school, wanted to visit her. And so she reaches out to Simone just to let her know that Sammy is at the house as of right now. Naturally, Simone isn't happy with that, so tells her that she's actually on her way to come get it. We then see Misty at work when we get to see Elijah Wood's character for the first time. And you can tell that Misty is curious about him because he ends up walking by, gives her this weird smile, and so Misty ends up getting ready to go on lunch, and when she goes in there, she actually ends up finding a note from him, but when she initially opens it up, it looks like there's nothing on the note, and I was like, there's definitely more to that than what we actually see there. We then go back to the 90s where we have Nat and Travis, where we actually see that Nat at some point in time goes back to the cabin, grabs one of Javi's pair of pants or shorts, tears it up, puts some blood on them, and so when Travis is coming back, she pulls out the pants or the shorts, shows him that she found these, so naturally Travis runs over, asking if she had seen Javi, and she says that Javi was nowhere around. She yelled for him, couldn't find him. Now, in a way, I get kind of what Nat was trying to do with this, because she feels that, Travis just is in denial about this, that Javi is probably dead at this point where it's been a couple months. So I in a way, understand, but at the same time, it's still pretty fucked up because we never have actually seen that Javi died. So it's pretty fucked up, and I just think that this is going to backfire in a major way coming up soon. Back in the present day, Lottie tells Nat that the night that Travis died, he had called her saying that the wilderness had come back to haunt him and that he knew what he had to do. So Lottie ended up driving all night to try and get to him in time, and when she gets there, she's talking to him, and Travis says the only way to confront the darkness is to get as close to death as possible, and so he wants to try and do that, and Lottie just, she's trying to snap him out of it. So they end up going to bed, but Lottie ends up waking up in the middle of the night, finds out that Travis has left, so she tries to go and look for him again. She finds that there is a note left from him to how to get into his bank account, so then again, that makes sense with what happened in season 1. And so Lottie tries to go after him again, goes to the ranch where he works at. So when Lottie gets to the ranch, she finds Travis. He's getting ready to hang himself. He has a bunch of candles around him in the shape of the symbol. He's getting ready to hang himself so that way he passes out and that way he could talk to the darkness. So then Lottie reluctantly helps Travis up because she figures where she's right there. She has the button. If things go bad, she'll be able to press that and release him. So helps him get up there. He ends up passing out, goes to try and release him from it, and the button doesn't work. So that's how Travis ends up dying. Lottie naturally freaks out, and she explains this to Nat, but Nat isn't really buying that. And I don't know. At least the way that Lottie delivered it in the scene, I want to say that I do believe her, but she could very well be playing us all as well. So I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think that she's telling the truth in that situation? Is that what happened where Travis died? And after this happens, Lottie thinks that she is seeing Laura Lee walking towards her, but then all of a sudden she turns into this fucked up, weird, demon-looking thing that looks at her, and you get these couple quick flashes that it took me a couple times to get it to pause on the right particular moment. And it's like 37 minutes and 45 seconds, you see this flash of someone laying there, their face just covered in blood. It's kind of hard to tell who that might be. I think, and I could be wrong, again, just like the quick glimpse, the angle that I had it at, it looks like that could have been Lottie possibly, or Laura Lee as a teen maybe covered in blood, but it could be Lottie as well. So I don't know if any of you guys got a chance to pause that too, who do you think that character is? I think it's like obviously one of those two characters, but just the way that whole scene played out, that was super creepy. And finally when Lottie comes to, we see that Travis is actually higher up in the air, or at least it seemed like he was. We then see Simone arrives at Tai's house to get Sammy, but then Sammy is nowhere to be found. So the two of them, they go to look for Sammy. They get in the car, and when they're driving, Simone actually gets a call from the school saying that Sammy's ready to be picked up from school. And then you quickly realize that Sammy was actually never at Tai's house. So she was just imagining this whole thing. And Simone, again, is just telling Tai to get help. You're really, really sick. When all of a sudden, Tai gets this look on her face like, I'm about to kill this lady, and all of a sudden there's a car accident where the truck car ends up slamming into the side where Simone is. So did she just suddenly out of nowhere, did she get possessed by something? And that's what it looked like, at least to me. And then obviously she was trying to kill Simone. We don't see what happened, but I mean, that vehicle crashed into the side of the door pretty hard. I thought I saw a promo that it looked like Simone might still be alive, but I have a feeling that might not be for very long, especially if she keeps telling Ty that she needs to get help. Back in the past, the girls are deciding whether or not if they want to keep Jackie's jacket, and Shauna argues that no one's taking Jackie's jacket. She ends up getting into this big fight with Mari, and then Lottie, she eventually, once everything, things kind of settle down, she ends up getting the necklace from Jackie and gives it to Shauna before they're getting ready to burn her. Back in the present day, we have Callie, who is at a bar with one of her friends when she sees this guy at the bar and decides to go and hit on him. And I wasn't sure at first, but I was like, yep, that's definitely one of the cops from Stranger Things. I can't think of the actor's name. But Callie ends up talking to his character. The two hit it off because you find out that this guy says, oh, I'm here to help my mom. My parents' marriage is kind of done, and so Callie relates to that situation. And we end up finding out that this character's name that she's talking to, his name is Jake, or at least that's what we think. We then go back to the past where Nat and Travis, they end up coming back to camp where Keila asks if those are Javi's pants or shorts, whatever they are, the form of clothing, if those are Javi's. And Lottie says they can't be because Javi is still alive. And obviously, Nat doesn't like that. She's like, what the fuck are you doing? So that whole situation is interesting. And I thought I'd seen some photos that it looks like Javi could possibly still be alive, maybe, so we might find him in an upcoming episode. But I do think it's interesting that she mentions that he is still alive and he's somewhere out there. Then you have Shauna ends up lighting the fire under Jackie to begin burning her body. So she ends up saying goodbye to her best friend. And you also have Travis takes the piece of Javi's clothing, puts it in, and says goodbye to Javi as well. In the present day, we have Nat who's getting ready for bed when all of a sudden she has this weird vision thing that she has, and she ends up waking or sitting up in bed. Then we see Misty, she's cleaning Quigley's cage, where I know a lot of people were speculating when we saw that cage in the promos where it was empty. They thought that Quigley had left, but she's just cleaning the cage. Then she discovers that she's actually able to read the note left by Elijah Wood's character. So he says the security's camera is a dummy, but he's identified a man who's been living at the motel for 3 months, and that he thinks that he's being interrogated by the FBI tomorrow, but he asks if Misty wants to join him. We then end up going to the police station where we end up seeing Kevin, and then we see Jake, who is actually, his name is Matt. He's a cop that works there, tells him how he hung out with Callie for a little bit at the bar, got some information, found out that Shauna was cheating on her husband, so he's ready to bring her in for more questioning, but Kevin is a little bit hesitant on that, and Matt thinks that he might be conflicted just with everything that's happened in the past with Shauna. As we're getting ready to wrap up the episode, we see Travis and Nat back in the 90s where they end up hooking up, but once they start to hook up, Travis actually ends up having those weird visions again, and he keeps seeing Lottie in the room right next to, in a lot of cases, right next to Nat. So it's definitely a little weird. What do all these visions mean? And then we get this really creepy camera vision, this angle of going through the woods where all of a sudden you see something floats over the camp and ends up knocking a bunch of snow onto Jackie's burning body. So Shauna ends up waking up, as well as the rest of the Yellowjackets members. They end up going outside to see what has happened, what that noise was. Then Shauna says she wants us to, and we get this weird vision of where we see the whole group, they're all dressed up in these outfits and gowns where they're getting ready to have this feast, and Shauna starts digging in with the knife, and then you see in the present time, or I should say in the 90s, the group all start devouring Jackie. So I know a lot of people were wondering if that was going to happen. So yeah, they ate Jackie. So Jackie is inside of all of them now, except for the coach. So the coach saw what was happening, and you could just see the look on his face. He was like, holy fuck, what am I going to do? He ends up hobbling back into the cabin, shuts the door, and he's probably sitting there thinking, this is fucked and I am screwed, because he seems to be the only one that isn't affected by this. Now, it obviously could just be hunger. I'm sure they're all starving out there. They're running out of food. But I don't know, just the way that they started acting in that moment, it seemed like they were all possessed as well. That's kind of just what I was getting from watching that scene. But I want to hear what your guys' thoughts were on that whole situation, the ending of the episode too. And that is the end of episode 2. So again, a lot to unpack in this episode. Shit is starting to get really crazy, so I definitely want to hear what your guys' thoughts and theories are on the episode of the couple different things that I asked you guys about. Definitely let me know what you think is going on in those couple situations. How do you think the rest of this season might play out with what we've gotten so far? So let me know down below in the comments. And if you guys can do me a huge favor, if you guys can, leave a comment, but also give this video a thumbs up. It really helps out the video, and I really appreciate it because where I am a smaller channel, my videos do tend to get buried sometimes when there's a lot of people covering the certain topics. So if you guys can do anything to help bump up the video, that would be much appreciated. Again, I am going to be having some of my interviews coming with the cast members coming out real soon, so make sure to stay tuned for that. If you guys are new, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell, that way you get notifications when those get put up. And I will be back next week to talk more Yellowjackets. So again, guys, thank you so much for checking out the video. I really appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up. And as always, please make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.